Two of my favorite YouTubers, David Carroll and Mad Voodoo Man, also known as the Iceman, are planning to release books soon. As far as I know, the Iceman, or Mad Voodoo Man's book is titled The Game According to the Iceman, and he's planning to release it on Kindle and Smashwords. And I don't know anything about David Carroll's the title of his book yet, but when I do find out, I'll let you guys know. But I'm making this video because I really want both of these men to have an understanding of how to effectively market their books on these platforms. I have been running the SJS Direct imprint for the past 6 going on 7 years. The imprint was established in 2009 with the publication of my first book, all about Maryland here. And after I made this book, I I've been branching out with the help of a friend of mine who told me about eBooks onto that platform. I went into that platform about 2012 or 2011 with several titles to target the young adult market. And I also went on there to target the nonfiction market as well. And I've learned quite a bit working on both in both marketplaces, the paperback and the ebook marketplace. When it comes down to paperbacks, I don't really do too much business. I mean, I may get a sale here and there, and most people, they really don't want to buy paperbacks these days because they don't want, a stack of books like this sitting in their home. So, two-thirds of my business these days comes from ebooks, and this is where you really need to target most of your marketing and target most of your plans to is selling the ebooks, because the ebook is pretty much where you're going to generate a lot of income when it comes down to selling a book. And when it comes down to selling books, it's more of a it's a revenue stream. Don't think of it as a primary business. For me, it's a primary business right now because I'm out of work, but it's more like a secondary revenue stream. Think of it like a passive income, um, money that's just going to come in and flow. Because when it comes down to ebooks and paperback money, the royalties usually come every 90 days, and this is how you get paid every 90 days. On the platform for Smashwords, I know that you get paid through PayPal, so your email address has to be, you have to make sure it's current with Smashwords. If your email is all right, you'll get paid through there through PayPal. With Amazon, you have to have your checking account tight, so that your routing number is correct. Make sure that the account number is correct, and you're gonna get money pretty much every 90 days on a sale, on sales of ebooks. With Smashwords, they only pay if it goes past $10, usually every 90 days. But with Amazon, they will pay you whatever is in there for that period. And the whole thing with both platforms is that you have to go out there and hustle and grind if you hope to get sales. And that's a big part of selling ebooks. You really have to go out there and hustle and grind. And the place you really have to hustle and grind on is social media. You have to go out and make the videos and tell people about your book. And when you're making videos, this is why I do videos right now, is to let people know who I am, what books I have to offer, and why they should buy them. Usually, these days, I do several different type of videos. I do men's issues where I talk about books like Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, The Manginas, Why they look like men but they act like ladies, and The Misadventures of Captain Save-A-Hope. I usually do like a men's issues type video for those, to promote those type of books, or I do videos talking about African American issues where I make reference to those type of books, and that's how I sell those nonfiction titles. When it comes down to fiction titles, usually I do videos talking about African American fantasy or African American science fiction, and I make those videos and I talk about books like those in the ISIS series, or the East Team series, or the books like The Temptation of John Haynes. I usually promote this book when I'm doing African American fantasy fiction. And usually when I promote those type of videos, I go to different groups on social media. And usually I post those videos, like when it comes down to fantasy videos, I usually go to comic book boards, or I go to a um, fantasy board. There are a lot of African American fantasy boards I go to, like Black Science Fiction Society or State of Black Science Fiction. And I go and I put a link over there to the video, and that gets me viewers, and it also gets me sales. When it comes down to men's issues, I can go to a men's group like Good Brothers Side of the Game, or the Hot Spot, or someplace like that, and I'll drop the video there, and then I'll make reference to the books there, and that'll get me sales. And that's one way you can market your book to viewers, because when you market that way, people are not only seeing the book, they're also seeing you, they're getting to know you, they're getting to know a sense of your information, and seeing how knowledgeable you are. Second way I market books online is through Facebook groups. There are at least about 5,000-6,000 books for groups like Seabury Book Club, Black Plays. There are a whole bunch. Uh, African American reading fan page, good reading fan page, uh, Bookworms International, and I'll go in there and I'll post links to different titles. And because I have a fairly large catalog, about 50 books or so, I usually drop links to random titles. And I find that the best day to drop links for books is Monday. Monday is a very, very good day for sales. If you put links up that day in various book groups, or you put it up even on your own Facebook group, you should be able to generate sales. Another good day is Saturday. I usually drop a link in the morning in Facebook groups on Saturday mornings, and that usually generates a sale or two. Usually I go to different groups, usually every day or every other day, and I'll drop links to different books, and that'll get people to take a look at various titles. And I usually randomize it. I usually don't promote one book straight, because I figure I have a catalog, so I can pick and choose which titles I want to promote online most of the time. Another place I usually go to promote is Twitter, and usually I drop links to books there. That's all. I usually get some sales from those Twitters, because sometimes people, they see it, they want to go and pick it up, and that's how I do, a good bulk of ebook marketing. Because with ebooks, people they're sold online, so you really have to have a good, strong online presence. People have to know who you are, and they do know who guys like you are. David Carroll, he has a nice following on YouTube. Mad Voodoo Man has a good following on YouTube, and he also has a following on Blog Talk Radio. And David Carroll has had a really strong blog, so they have the foundation for a strong platform. And selling books shouldn't be that hard. But again, this is a secondary income. Do not think of it as primary income, because it only comes every 90 days, and you will have, there will be months where you will do extremely well, because there are two periods where, people buy lots of books. The first period is April through June, and the second period is December through February. Usually in those two periods, people buy lots of books. And the reason why they buy lots of books is because April through June is the summer reading season, and the summer reading season is huge in the book market. When it comes down to the summer reading season, the kids are out of school, many of the adults are going on vacation, and they're looking for books to read, to go on the beach, or just to relax during the day. And because ebooks are instant, people will just pick them up and buy them without a problem. I mean, especially if they're really low price, like 99 cents to about $3.99, they won't hesitate. They'll just pick that up and buy it without a problem. And usually I find that in the summertime, this is where a lot of people are willing to take some risks and try new authors. And this is a place where you're going to find a lot of new readers. Usually, when I want to launch nonfiction, I usually do it in the summer because a lot of people, again, they like to take risks. They like to learn about new things, and they like to explore new ideas. And this is a great time for I found to launch nonfiction because during this time I was where I launched the first book in the Simp trilogy, which was Stop Simpin', Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance. And I launched that book in 2012, and it was a big hit on Smashwords, and then it became an international hit on Smashwords. And because it did so well, the following year, I decided to the other two parts of the Six Simp trilogy, and launch them in two phases. I launched the second book, Manginas, Why They Look Like Men But They Act Like Ladies, on Smashwords, and even though it was a free book, the book got over 1,000 downloads. I met a lot of different people on Facebook, and a lot of people contacted me about that book. And it was a huge hit. It was a huge hit internationally, and that was because of a summer launch. A lot of people discovered that from discovering that book, went back to buy Stop Simpin', and they bought that one. And from there, Christmas time, I launched The Misadventures of Captain Save-A-Hole, which was the third part of the Simp trilogy. And that book did fairly well on Smashwords as well. And it also, has been picking up momentum. And then the following year, I decided, I was getting a lot of attacks from black women about this other book I did, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. So I decided, instead of going back and forth with these people, I decided to write the book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. Launched that book in 2014, and it has done fairly well over the last 2 years. So best time to launch. When I usually launch nonfiction, I usually launch it during the summer because people have time to read it, and they really want to learn, new things. Because when it comes down to nonfiction, sometimes it's a tougher sell during the winter months, because a lot of times people, they're back to school, or they're, at the heavy period at work, so they really don't want to, read anything that has a lot of, educational components right about them, because they're already learning right now. So what they want to do is, what usually I find that the holiday season a good time to launch fiction. Usually, if you want to launch fiction books, best time to do that is from November to February. Usually, when I've launched fiction books in that period, they have done a lot better than when I would launch a fiction book in April. I've only had, one fiction book do well in the summertime, as strong. I've had the Thetas. This was the book. When I launched this one in May, it did fairly well, but usually women's fiction does a lot better in that period. But the best time to launch a fiction book is November through February. When I launched this book right here, All About Maryland, this is the first book in the SJS Direct imprint. In paperback, this did very well. When I launched it in February of 2009, it performed fairly strongly, and it still performs fairly strongly when I offer it on a Kindle Unlimited for Oscar, and I get some sales afterwards. In 2011, when I launched The Temptation of John Haynes, this book did fairly well in the winter time. Usually, the time to launch fiction, if you want to launch a fiction title, is, again, the holiday season, because, again, the holiday season, there's a lot more disposable income. During the holiday season, you have people who are handing out gift cards. You have businesses that hand out gift cards to places like Amazon, the Apple Store, Barnes & Noble, and all of this is liquid money. All of this is money that people are just pretty much, it's stuck on a card. They have to spend it. And when they have this type of money, they're willing to take a risk. and go out and buy new authors. And this is the time, for when fiction writers, they're willing to go out and buy new fiction. Usually in the summertime, they're willing to buy new nonfiction, especially fiction relating to dating, like when I did Stop Simping, because it's the summertime, a lot of people are out, and summertime is a time when people, they tend to hook up because it's a lot of people have a lot more free time, a lot of vacations are going on, and that was one of the other reasons why I released Stop Simping in the summertime, because it was the perfect time, to release that book. But usually, again, fiction is good in the winter. People are at home. They sometimes they're snowed in. They have nothing else to do, and also they have plenty of these gift cards available. And whatever's on the gift card, they have to spend the entire thing, or they wind up stuck. Usually, when it comes down to gift cards, people don't mind taking a risk and spending a few dollars on a new ebook or trying a new author, especially when authors offer up titles for free. They don't mind spending that type of money, and this is an opportunity, for you guys to capitalize on creating your audience and building your audience on an online book platform. Um, I have had a lot of, pretty fairly decent success using these strategies, timing when I'm going to launch a book, setting when I want to launch a book, and, going for different periods in the reading season. I know when the slow months are, and I try to do campaigns for those because there are things that can be done to counter that. But the slow months there are certain months you just don't want to launch a book in. You don't want to launch a book in July. You don't really want to launch a book in August, and you really don't want to launch books in October unless it's towards the end, towards Halloween, which is really the unofficial start of the Christmas season. You really don't want to launch books early October and early September because everybody's going back to school and nobody's going to notice your book. You really want to that period from September, late August to October, to late October. You really don't want to launch anything because if you release a book then, no one is going to see it. But the whole thing with the digital marketplace, books are always up. But the whole thing is that you really want to, target all of your resources to peak periods so that where people have their income and they have the money ready to go out and spend. And usually this is what I do. I go for those periods where people have their money ready and they're going to spend it on books. Because people do buy ebooks. They buy them on the regular. Again, 2/3 of my business is ebooks these days because people are willing to take a risk on an ebook before they go out and buy a paperback. And then there's because a lot of these people, they have smartphones, they have iPads, and they have even laptops and Kindles, and they like to put the books on the Kindles because it's a lot less space than say having all of these in your home. Nobody wants to have a collection of this in their home because it's just too much. There's not enough space in today's homes, and the way people are moving back and forth. People would rather just have it on a cloud or on the Kindle, and it's easier for them. And also, the other reason why I target, fiction on Christmas time is because people are getting new Kindles every year. People are getting new Kindles. They're getting new iPhones. They're getting new iPads, and Apple just released, several new devices. And Samsung's released new devices, and people, they read their books on these devices. So, again, that's another reason why you want to target for Christmas time. That's why you want to target, fiction for Christmas time, and you really want to do a heavy campaign then. You can do nonfiction then, but you want to do a heavy campaign then because this is where a good chunk of your money is going to be made this time of year. Usually I make a good percentage on Christmas time. Two seasons I make money on is the summer reading season and the holiday reading season. And those are the two that you really want to target. When it comes down to books, it's really a seasonal business. It's not. Yeah, books are sold all year long, but the two big seasons are the summer reading season and the holiday season. Those are your two big seasons. Yes, there's textbooks that are sold throughout the year, but that's not really an audience you guys are going for. You're really going for a nonfiction crowd, and if you're going for a nonfiction crowd again, you can really reach a lot of people during the holiday season because again, you guys already have followings. You're already known names. You have personalities, and it's possible for you guys to reach people that way. I'm just saying that I've launched books like Misadventures of Captain Sable. It did fairly well um, during the holiday season, but I'm not a known name. You guys are known names, so you guys are gonna probably do a lot better in the marketplace than I would. Um, Another thing I want to talk about is platforms. What I mean by platforms are the venues that books are sold. Um, as there are three usually platforms I usually deal with. One is the Amazon Kindle. The second one is Smashwords, and the third one is Barnes and Noble's Nook. Usually, and they all have their own websites. Each one has its own quirks, and each one has its own pros to it. Usually, Barnes and Noble's Nook, I usually don't deal with them anymore. I used to deal with them quite a bit, but I don't usually deal with them now because the Barnes and Noble's Nook usually does not pay fairly any decent royalties. I mean, on something like a 99-cent ebook, you only get 40 cents. So I look at it this way: Barnes and Noble is already distributed through Smashwords, and Smashwords will pay you more money. So it's better to just go through Barnes and Noble through Smashwords because then on a 99-cent ebook you'll be paid 60 cents. So and on a $3.99 ebook you'll be paid a little bit more because I've had sales from why 70% of black women are single on that platform. You get paid a little bit more. So it's a lot easier for you to just go through Smashwords for any type of books that you want to sell on Barnes and Noble. Um, but Smashwords is very good for nonfiction. I'll tell you that much. Smashwords is a great place to launch a nonfiction book. Smashwords, the readers are a lot more open to new authors, and they're really open to trying new books. When I was launching the Simp trilogy, the Stop Simpin', the Manginas, and the Misadventures of Captain Saberho, and the audience really picked it up there, and that's where those books really found their audience was on the Smashwords platform. Um, when it came down to Smashwords, other books I've done like Why 70% of Black Women Are Single and the Stop Simping Second Edition, they also did very well on the Smashwords platform. Again, Smashwords readers tend to be very open. They're very willing to give things a try. And another advantage to working with Smashwords is that they give you access really to the international marketplace. This is where I really found a lot of my international audience in the UK, in Europe, and Asia, and even as far as Japan. Most of that audience came through the Smashwords network. Books that I've done on Smashwords, this is how you're going to really find readers because Smashwords, it's a place where people are very open to trying new books, trying new ideas, and it's a very good place to launch nonfiction. People are willing to give nonfiction more of a try there. On Amazon, the Kindle is a nice device. It has the largest audience out of all the e-readers, but what I've been finding these days is that there's a lot of disadvantages to working with the Kindle. Yes, it's easy to upload books to the Kindle. The pricing can't be beat. The royalties can't be beat. But the audience is, they have their issues. When you deal with the Amazon audience, they have a really, really bad sense of entitlement. I have had people, go and try to give me 1-star reviews because they didn't like the content, not on the merits of the content, but because the book was, in their words, too short. And I feel that was really extremely arrogant is for you to tell an author how long a book should be. And, this is what you're going to have to run into. You're going to run into really petty people, people with senses of entitlement, people who feel that books should be their way and you should write the way they want you to write. It's a really, the audience on the Kindle, I find, they're really picky and finicky, and they really have many. I'm not knocking all Kindle people, not all the people who own Kindles or who buy books on Amazon, but I've run into quite a few who are really snarky, and I don't find that, on the Smashwords board. I mean, when it comes on the Smashwords, I've gotten letters from people in Italy, and other parts of the world who have, thanked me for these books and thanked me for putting the information in there. But when it came down to Kindle, they had a real sense of entitlement. They had a real, you know, snarky attitude about it. They have these view of what a book should be. Or they want books to be, big and long, not understanding that, it takes 6 months to a year or even a year and a half for an author like myself just to write the first draft of this book. And you're going to come here and tell me how long it should be? I mean, a book is as long as the author, needs to be. If the author wants the book to be 5 pages, guess what? The book is going to be 5 pages. And you're paying for the story based on, the content. And then the other thing that you run into, because a lot of these Kindle owners have a lot of entitlement issues, is the fact that they just buy books without thinking about it. These are the people that have no critical thinking skills. They'll pick up a fantasy book like A Temptation of John Haynes. They'll pick this up and get upset because it is a fantasy book. Or they'll pick up a book like All About Maryland, which is clearly noted on the book, a screenplay. They'll get upset and say, well, why is this a screenplay? And they won't sit there and read the page and, or read the preview and find out what this book is about. No, they'll just buy the book because they see a cover or something, and they won't take the time to examine the book thoroughly. From what I've seen on Amazon, in a lot of cases, these people will do extensive research to find out all the features for a television that they're going to buy, a big screen Samsung television, but they won't look at the genre a book is in. They won't look at the category a book is in. They won't even read the synopsis that a book is about. They'll sit there and they'll get upset. They'll get all upset because a book says, because they'll get upset about a book having certain content in it, when if they had just taken the time to read the synopsis or even read the preview, that they would find out what the book was about. I mean, there's simply something called look inside. And sadly, many people on Amazon, because they have a sense of entitlement, they won't take the time to look at the look inside the book. So if you get a lot of negative content, negative reviews, pretty much brush them off, because a lot of times you're going to be running into people who really do not really appreciate books like they do on Smashwords and places like the Apple Store. They don't really take the time to sit down and really take a long hard look at the content and look at the views, because I've gotten some 1-star reviews on certain books. Like I got one on Why 70% of Black Women Are Single out of pure malice, and a couple of other ones I've gotten out of pure malice. Well, not because the content was bad, but because some people, they would read. They wouldn't even take the time to just sit down and read the synopsis, or take the time to even read the material. I've even gotten some, like one for the ISIS Night of the Vampires, where somebody just decided, a lot of people, they like to leave spam reviews and stuff like that. That's another problem with Amazon. Also with Barnes and Noble. So I don't even bother looking at the reviews page. I just look at the sales. Most times, usually, because I'm a pretty thick-skinned guy. I don't bother, looking at the reviews in most cases. If I see a good one, I'll post. I may, use it for promotional purposes, but in a lot of cases, with the Amazon reader, I'm noticing that, again, they're very, very finicky, and they're very, some of them are really, really snobbish, and, they have these entitlement issues regarding what an ebook should be. Some people want long books, but they don't understand that, I'm not, I mean, people aren't going to give you a, 300, 400 page novel for 99 cents all the time. I mean, a writer like myself may do that, for a period of time just to get people interested in a book or to try out our titles, but in most cases, we're not going to do that all the time. And this is something you run into on Amazon quite a bit. Um, and this is one of the reasons I don't mind using Amazon. I get a lot of sales on Amazon, but this is one of the issues you're going to have to deal with on Amazon, is that some of these people again have a sense of entitlement when it comes down to that device and they come down to that e-reader. So that may be some issues. You may have to deal with with some one-star reviews, and you may also have to deal with something called returns, because there's a lot of dusty people on Amazon, and what they like to do is they like to buy a book, read it, and then return it. And I've pretty much contacted their customer service about this issue. Myself and other authors, we have contacted Amazon saying that, what, you can't return an MP3, you can't return a TV show, but you'll have these dusty people who will come on here and they'll see an ebook that's even 99 cents and they'll buy it and then they'll return it, and then you'll wind up, losing a sale, and this guy's just got your information. And the whole thing is that I always felt that this policy was an abuse, but this is one of the pitfalls of dealing with Amazon. Yes, they're the largest bookseller, but this is another, issue you would have to deal with dealing with Amazon, is that there are people out there who will just go out and buy your books and then try to game the system, read it, and then try to return it. But the other part of Amazon that, you really should take a serious look at is Kindle Unlimited. The only disadvantage to Kindle Unlimited is that you can't sell your books on Smashwords or Barnes & Noble or any other e-tailer, but there are some good advantages to it. The Borrow program, right now, they've changed it to the point where you get paid per every page somebody reads, and if the book is exclusive on Amazon, you get, and somebody reads pages of it, you get paid per page, and usually that can turn out to be a pretty good chunk of money. I just had my client Lawrence Cherry, when he launched The Atonement, he had several people picking up the book. It's still on Kindle Unlimited now. That book did extremely well with this Kindle Unlimited. People were borrowing it, and reading it, and getting it that way. And that's a way of generating revenue. But the only disadvantage is that you wind up losing money when it comes down to other areas like Smashwords, and because Smashwords gives you Barnes & Noble, the Apple Store, Baker and Taylor, a whole host of e-tailers, and that's a big marketplace because all 6 or 7 of those areas, are big, and especially in foreign markets. When it comes down to Smashwords, you lose a lot of foreign market money. But that's the trade-off, is that Amazon is one of the big retailers when it comes down to ebooks. But usually these days, what I do is I'll launch a book on Kindle Unlimited for the first 90 days, and then I'll take it to Smashwords. Usually I'll do a promotion where I start with Kindle Unlimited for the first 90 days when I launch a book. And I did that for this Isis Night of the Vampires this summer. I did that for this book, and I also did it for the East Team Undercover. I also did it for this book because both the books were part of a crossover. And I did that for those books because, I'm sorry, had a bit of an itch. Usually when I'm doing books like that, I can pull some borrows here and there on those books, and then after I finish doing it on that platform, I take the books over to Smashwords and then try to go for the foreign audience. Usually I go for the American audience and then go for the foreign audience, and that's usually a strategy that I use. But for nonfiction, again, I really believe that because you guys have a strong platform, you shouldn't really have any problems selling books on either, especially because you guys have those blog talk radio shows. You have a good, strong YouTube channel with a strong following. you shouldn't have to use Kindle Unlimited, you know, at all to generate sales. I mean, all you have to do is just keep posting a picture of it in the videos, and you know, keep mentioning it, and it shouldn't be any problem at all. When it comes down to ebooks, again, it's with Amazon, you know, yeah, they're the biggest marketplace, but Smashwords has a bigger network, and the advantage there is that you can reach more people, and on top of it, Smashwords has no return policy. So when people buy a book from Smashwords or through the Smashwords network, you pretty much have earned that royalty. But with Amazon, you know, you have to wait about 7 days to see if that money is going to come through, because usually after the seventh day, Amazon cuts it off, and that means the person can't return the book. And what I find is that there's a lot of dusty people on Amazon. They will sit there, they'll buy a book again, read it, and then won't return it. And then return it. They'll return it. But on Smashwords, there is no returns. And that's, you know, one of the advantages. And I'm really pondering, you know, walking away from Kindle Unlimited, unless it's like especially for fiction type, unless it's like fiction titles. I've pretty much said that there's not going to be any Kindle freebies anymore. I used to give out books for free on the Kindle in the hopes of getting new readers, but because of the returns, I have pretty much, you know, changed my mind on that, because I really do not like, you know, having to deal with these returns, because it's people getting your content and you don't know what they're going to do with it. A lot of these, because some of these people, you know, they're greasy. They'll go to a file sharing, they'll read your book, and then if they don't like you or they want to do something malicious, they'll go to a file sharing site and try to post it up there. And that's one of the reasons why I don't. I'm stopping with the Kindle freebies, and then people will just. What I've heard is because a lot of these readers on Amazon are entitled. They're downloading books and then just reading a page or two, and then deleting them. So I said no. That's going to end. The Kindle freebies are going to end after this Spinsterella. I got that book on Kindle Unlimited, and usually for Kindle Unlimited I use that for fiction, but for nonfiction, you know, I don't use it, because I usually figure that people already know me from my blog, www.shawnsjames.blogspot.com. They know what type of content I'm producing on the blog, and that's what was in the books. That was one of the reasons why I did the Simp Trilogy, and that's one of the reasons why I did the Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. It's because those books were birthed from my blogs, and people had read my blogs, and then my friend, who was a best-selling author, she was encouraging me to write a nonfiction book since 2009. I decided, you know, I really wanted to write about men's issues, and that's what prompted me to launch the Stop Simping series, and then they go on to the Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. I'm pondering doing a book on single mothers and how they destroy black males, and that may be coming up soon, but that's in the planning stages. But David Carroll should have no problem finding African American readers, and the Iceman should have no problem especially on Amazon, because most black people go to Amazon for everything, but most people, white people and foreign people, they head over to Smashwords. So if you go to Amazon, you guys should be all right, especially with the African American audience. I've done fairly well over there on Amazon, but again, this is not a primary revenue stream. It's a secondary revenue stream, but it can be a lucrative secondary revenue stream. When I helped my friend, the national best-selling author, get her books back to the marketplace, she had several romance novels that went out of print, and she got the rights for them, and we got them to the marketplace. What we did was we uploaded the books to Amazon and Smashwords, and she made a couple $1,000s, you know, in the first month or so, and she continues to make that type of revenue on a fairly regular basis. But she was a best-selling author beforehand. And Lawrence Cherry, the author of Commencement, School of Hard Knocks, and The Atonement, his books have a fairly strong audience on Smashwords and on Kindle. And he does fairly well in the Christian fiction marketplace. And the whole thing with the ebook market is, because it's so open, you know, everybody has an opportunity to find an audience and find readers. And if the people who watch your videos, it's pretty much if they are readers, they're going to go out and buy your books. And if they're priced competitively in that, you know, $4.99 to 99 cents range, you should have no problem moving books on a regular basis. Usually back in the day, I used to offer a lot of books at 99 cents, but lately I've been upping the price, and people have been willing to pay the price for those books. So with you having an established audience, it should be no problem moving titles. I wish both of you guys the best of luck in getting your books to the marketplace, and I hope that you find the success that my best-selling author friend has had in the marketplace and Lawrence Cherry has had in the marketplace. And I'm hoping this advice helps you, continue to build your platform and build your audience. That's all I have to say for this video. Comment, rate, and subscribe.